Okay, here we go. Let me go and make sure all of the messages are visible. Got a couple of likes on the chat. And of course, freaking Ethan Van Sciver decides he's going to do a live stream like right over this. Oh, God, I can't win. I cannot win. I figure I schedule this thing out in advance. It's not, nobody's going to step on it. And then Ethan Van Sciver decides he's going to have a freaking live stream right then. I should go and it would be bad form. I keep thinking I should go over there and like do a super chat saying, "Hey, if you're bored with this, come over to my live stream." But no, not going to do that. Oh my goodness, what a day it was yesterday. Yes, I went to Fan Expo Dallas, and that pretty much consumed the good portion of my morning and afternoon. There were oh God, so many people there, and it was getting to be it was kind of funny because when I got there, I left the house a little later than I thought I would. I was going to leave the house at 9 o'clock, and then I realized, oh wait, I don't have enough money for this thing because God knows how expensive these things are. So I had to run by the ATM, and then I had to make sure all of my stuff was put together, and then I had to make sure all of my car was gassed up, and you just had all sorts of preparatory work to do. And most of it I did the night before. I was pretty good about making sure I had everything I needed, all collected, all put together, so that it was not too big of a hassle in the morning. All I really needed to do was get cleaned up, get myself out there, and start hitting the list. I even made a list, and crap, I forgot my phone. Okay, hold on just a second. How do I turn off the camera on this thing for a moment? Well, hold on. Shoot. I'm just gonna have to wing it. Yeah, I left my phone in the other room because it was low on charge. So now it's charging, but it had the list of all the people who I went to see and get the autographs from. So no big deal. I mean, there were only 7 people who I wanted to get autographs from, and then there are only like 4 other people that I would have been interested in talking to at the expo. So that was pretty much the extent of my visit. I was really hoping to get out of there by about 2 o'clock. If I could just hit everybody and get all of the signatures, then I'd get there at 10. I'd leave at 2, and that'd be it for the day. And as it happened, I pretty much got there about 11, left at 3. So everything was shifted by an hour, but I think everything went well. And Trent Roberts says, "Hi, Mike. You've been having a good day today?" Today has mostly been sleeping because it was an exhausting day yesterday. I hit up the Dallas Fan Expo, and I got to see the crowd at the, well, not crowd so much, but the staff there at the Rippaverse table. So that'll be a fun story to talk about. So I went and I did my autograph hunting first. Once I was done with that, I started looking for the Rippaverse table and finally found it. It was like off in the front corner. So it was in a pretty good location, I thought. But it took forever to find just because I didn't buy one of those program maps. I didn't want to jack with that. They have a weird badging system now at the Fan Expo. I don't know if this is the first year they've ever done this, but I've gone to fan expos in the past, and this is the first time I've ever encountered where you had to uh, scan a QR code and activate your badge on your phone, and your phone became kind of like your RFID tag. And so you didn't actually need to like carry it and have it visible around you at any particular time. I just carried mine around in my pocket, and you just needed to scan it in order to get entry into the convention, and then you needed to scan it in order to get out of the convention. And there were some people who went and they got multiple badges, and I guess one person must have gotten sick or something, and then said, screw it, I'm out of here, because there was somebody who actually handed out a badge saying, "Hey, you want a free badge?" And I wish, I could have gotten that. I should have been like, "Hey, give that one here," but no, I went ahead and paid for it like a goofball. And it was $80 to get in, and $80. Now I did ask them. I said, because it was 67 online. She said, "Yeah, it's 67, but once you get through all the taxes, all the fees, then you're going to be winding up paying like $78 for it." I was like, all right, so $80 is not a big deal. And then it was $10 for the parking, and of course, Parking, holy crap. I don't know when you have to get there in order to get parking that's on the premises. How in the world do you even get anywhere near parking? Because I always wind up in the outflow parking that's out in lot E. And even though I got there about 10:30 was when I arrived, still I'm all the way on the freaking end of the overflow lot. I don't know how people get up that early to go in. I guess they just have learned by now. If you don't get there by like 8:30 and start, walking over there, you're never going to get in a reasonable amount of time. So I probably arrived at the place after getting lost a couple of times on the way there. I don't know what it is about the way that Dallas has their streets labeled, but when I'm going down 35 and I'm coming to the point where you got to turn onto 30, about 3 or 4 times now, I have turned onto the wrong branch of 30 because I see the big 30 on the on ramp and I think that's where I need to go. And there's another ramp that's just beyond that. So I end up going over that new bridge that's got the arch with all of the weird crosswise, uh, what do you call it, the cabling. And my mother actually knows the person who helped design that bridge. I don't know if she was the lead architect on it, but she was at least one of the architects on it. I should get some clarification on that. In fact, she was there at the opening of the bridge, and she and her family, walked across back and forth. So I've been across that bridge like about 3 or 4 times now, because every time I'm going down 35 and I think, oh, I need to get on 30. Where's the 30 exit? That big freaking 30 that's on the road throws me off completely, and I just wind up going over the bridge and having to do a U-turn. Sonic Man says, did you get a photo of yourself with celebrity Eric July? No, I was alone there, and I'm not really good at like handing my phone to other people to have pictures taken. And besides, by the time I was done talking to him, he was probably like, get this guy away from me. So, so no, I didn't stick around for that. I should have at least taken a photograph of the Rippaverse booth when I had the chance. But I don't even think of those things. The only time that I actually thought about taking a photo, there was one actress there whose name is I assume this is her real name because it sounds like it's not, but it probably is. Her name is Kate Micucci, which that's a hell of a name. But she had in her credits on her like little poster that was advertising who she was. I mean, she's a voice actress and she's done things like, I guess, Velma and other characters. And one of the things on there was Psych, and my mother loves that show. She loves the show Psych. She's rewatching like all of the episodes now from that show. That was the one about the guy who claimed to be a psychic, but really his thing was that he had such great attention to detail that his father practically beat into him, being a cop and a detective, that he would assist detectives under the guise of being a psychic. That was the way that he would that the show would go. And so my mom loves that show, and so I tried to get a picture of her so I could show, hey, Kate Micucci's there. And then later on in the day, I looked her up on Wikipedia and looked up her TV filmography. She was in like one episode of the show. Why the hell? I mean, was that like one of her? It wasn't even one of her only live action performances, I don't think, because why even have that on your banner? Like, hey, I was in that one episode of Psych that you must have seen in all 6 seasons across 6 years. You remember me? Like, probably not. I'm just amazed that was even on the poster. By the way, I've got my Mio with the hydration thing here, which is supposed to give you like minerals and electrolytes. And apparently that's supposed to be important when you're on the keto diet like I am. And I've lost about 22 freaking pounds on that. The only problem is that they tell you get cramps if you're on this thing. And I was at Red Lobster the other day after I went to the show, because I had one of these like $10 off a $30 or more purchase. And when I was using the crab crackers to try and get these things, my hand was cramping up something fierce. So I started drinking some of this Mio with minerals and electrolytes, trying to get myself, I don't know, uncramped, generally speaking. But it's the Mio Hydrate variety. Oh God, I hope that stuff doesn't poison you over time, like Mio with all the different flavors, because I drink that thing like a fiend, because I don't do sodas anymore. Sodas, I used to like drink sodas like a fiend, and then I realized I'm always thirsty when I'm drinking those things, and it just makes more sense to just drink flavored water. But I don't like, the actual flavored waters because those are expensive. So I can just, get the Mios when they're on sale over at Kroger's, and I'll use those. So I got there about, oh God, I want to say I got there about 9:30. No, 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 no. I left the house at 9:30. I got to the parking lot at 10:30. And after, driving over the rough stuff to get to an actual spot, I started the long trek there because it is a hike. And there was a guy out there who was in a little one of those golf carts, and he was giving away rides to the front of the Dallas Fan Expo for $10. I decided not to do it because I almost feel like making that, hobbit's journey by foot to the actual front door of the Fan Expo is part of the whole experience. But oh God, if I had been with somebody, and especially if I had been, disabled in some way, or even, just impaired in my ability to walk, $10 for a ride to the front is you're probably getting off cheap. Because that stuff, oh my God, you have to walk uphill all that way. And some people did it. Some people, they walked, not just having disabilities or things where it was affecting their ability to walk. And there are a lot of people like that at the show. I always see, I guess because of the fantasy element involved in a fan expo, you've got a lot of people who are not as able-bodied as everyone else. And they're there, doing their kind of fantasizing about who and what they could be and all that kind of stuff. But there was one guy who had this gigantic suit of armor on. I mean, he looked like he was done up like Master Chief or something, but it was huge. And he was just like lumbering all the way back to the car. And he was walking, he had to walk as far as I did back to the car. I was just like, this is crazy, man. I would never do that kind of thing for cosplay. That's nuts. So after making that whole long trip up to the front of the Fan Expo, then it was a matter of, okay, which way do I go in order to find where the registration is? Thankfully, there was somebody who was like, is registration this way? No, it's that way. So I didn't have to be the one to ask for directions. So I went the proper way, found where the booths were. I got in line, and that's when I found out about, okay, you got to buy this badge. You got to scan the QR code. You got to activate it, put in the activation code. Then you got to get the activation email and confirm that you got the email, and then you're all set to go. And then it's just a matter of scanning your badge in when you get to the place, and when you get into the exhibit hall, and you got to scan it when you leave the convention. So I went into the convention hall, and right away I made a beeline for where the celebrities were. I was not going to worry about Rippaverse at first. I wanted to get all of my celebrity autograph stuff done, because the only real reason I went there was to get one particular celebrity's autograph. I wasn't really going there for any other person but one person. And the reason being is, at the last Fan Expo I went to, I got a ton of autographs at that one. But the ones that were like the big time autographs were by the cast of Smallville. And so I got John Byrne's Man of Steel series, the one that he came out with in 1986 that reintroduced Superman into the DC universe after Crisis on Infinite Earths. And I took issue number 1, I took issue number 4, and issue number 6, because that had Superman on the cover, and that I got signed by Tom Welling. I got number 4 featuring Lex Luthor, signed by Michael Rosenbaum. And I got number 6, which had Lana Lang on the cover, signed by Kristen Kruk. And I don't know if I ever told the story about when she signed it. She was asking me, so like, where would you like me to sign it? And I thought, oh, anywhere's fine. And because I thought that people just have a natural, idea of where's a good idea to sign a comic on the cover. And when celebrities ask you what you want, tell them what you want, because they don't know. They don't know things like that. It's kind of like dialogue balloon placement. If you don't know, you don't know. You find that out about people real quick. So it's like when I'm reading a Rippaverse book and I realize, well, this dialogue balloon should not go here. It should go here. It's like, I just think people should know this stuff right away, especially if they are in the comic book business. But when it comes to celebrities, most of them are not even experienced with comic books. There's a lot of people, like one of the guys who I think I think that's what he told me. One of the guys who I got an autograph from today, he's not into comic books himself, but his son is. And maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know, but I'll mention that later when I get to him. But yeah, so Kristen Crook's right about to write her name just across Lana Lang's lap or something as she's walking. And I'm like, not there. It's like, oh. And then I was like, here, just go ahead and write it in this section. And then she scribbled it. And then as I'm going away, I hear her going like, not there. So I don't know if that I hope that was not her first convention either, because there was one thing where she was signing a stack of laminated photographs, or I don't know if it was laminated photographs or just regular photographs or what have you. But she actually, when she got done signing them, she was putting them right on top of each other, and she wound up smearing the ink on one of them underneath there. I was just like, oh, so I think we got a newbie here. And some of the people who were there are actually new to Dallas. They have not been at one of those before, including the person who I actually got to sign my, what do you call it? Before I get any further, let me just remind everyone that this is a bribe stream. So I'm looking for bribes. I'm looking for bribes because, oh God, I'm going to have to read. Am I going to have to read YAIRA number 3? Am I going to have to read RIPPAZINE number 4? Y'all are going to have to be the judge of that. You know, maybe you're going to have mercy and spare me, or otherwise you're going to put me through hell, and you're going to give me money so that I can purchase these. Someone, Edward DeLeon, stay away from the kids. What the hell does that mean? So are you going to give me money so that I can purchase YAIRA number 3 and RIPPAZINE number 4 to review? Because I have decided if I'm not bribed for this stuff, I ain't touching it. Now YAIRA number 3 is the continuation of YAIRA number 2. Now, some people were commenting on my YAIRA number 2 reviews, and they were saying, you know, you didn't really get into the plot of YAIRA number 2, which is true. I did not really get deep into the plot. I mean, I covered like the first portion of the book, but when a lot of the new stuff that the Soska sisters introduce comes out in the book, I did not cover that. And the reason I did not cover that is because I don't know how much of it is real. This is kind of a little bit of a spoiler for YAIRA number 2, but by the end of the book, you start to realize I don't know how much of this is real and how much of this is an imaginary story. So you need, I think you need YAIRA number 3 in order to understand all that. And because I didn't have YAIRA number 3 in hand, I was not going to review that portion of the story. It just didn't make sense to do so. Now, of course, I read it all, but so that factored into my overall review score. But there was no point in trying to bring out any lessons from that, because I didn't even know what portions of the story were real. And that was one of the reasons I did not give it that high of a rating. At least I didn't give it any higher a rating than I did on YAIRA number 1. So let's see, where are we with this? Okay, so $65 is what I'm looking for to review YAIRA number 3. $65. And if we go all the way to $95, I will review the next Soska Sisters product on top of that, which is RIPPAZINE number 4. They are doing the short story called Catch and Kill, which features Winslow Valiant and his femme fatale partner character. He's an investigative reporter of some sort. So it's kind of like another detective story, kind of like Saoirse, kind of like Salvage PI, but the Soskas are writing it. So I don't know. I don't know what this is supposed to be, but it's just kind of garbage. So $65, and I will be reading that. $95 will get you both YAIRA number 3 and RIPPAZINE number 4. So with that in mind, let me continue on the Fan Expo journey. So I went and made a beeline for the celebrity autographs, and I just went and let's see, Frog Tony, Mike, was that you in the background of the Bunny Man video? I don't know what the Bunny Man video is. I would have to see a link to that, or if you can point me to that. I don't know. Was that something that took place at the Fan Expo, or was that something else entirely? If it was something else entirely, it probably wasn't me. But if it was at the Fan Expo, then it's entirely possible, but I don't remember any Bunny Man video. It's kind of funny that you give me that, or give me that reference, because Bunny's kind of a reference in a different light. I won't get into that. Uh, so let's see. Went and made a beeline for the celebrities tables, and the very first person I encountered was the actor Frank Grillo. If you don't know, Frank Grillo plays Crossbones in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I managed to get his autograph. And one of the things that they're doing these days that I didn't realize is that they're actually not just signing their names now, but they're also mentioning what characters they played. Because I guess, sometimes they think there are people who request that because otherwise, how would you know? Um, Bunny Man was a guy who, okay, Frog Tony is saying Bunny Man was a guy who went to confront Eric July. When I went there were no confrontations. I did not see any confrontations, so I can safely say no, I was not there in the background of that video. Everything I saw around Eric July's table at that time was all cordial. It was all good. I mean, if anybody was acting weird, it was probably me. But even I was being as nice as possible to everybody and just trying to be helpful and stuff and pointing out their Mick Davies issue. But I'll get to that later. But no, I didn't see any altercations, any confrontations, or anything like that when I was over at the Rippaverse table. And Eric July and the Saska sisters were as cordial as they could possibly be, especially given weirdos like me around. So nothing out of the ordinary happened when I was around, except for me myself, I guess. So Frank Grillo, yes, he played Crossbones in the MCU, and I also told him that I enjoyed his short film Boss Level. If you haven't seen that, it's I believe it's on Amazon Prime. And Boss Level is about a cop who wakes up and he's just stuck in a time loop, and so he's got to figure out why is he in the time loop, who put him there, how does he get out of it, that kind of thing. And it's really good. And the other movie that I saw of his was Cop Shop, and I told him that was a movie that he wound up being very dissatisfied with, and he wound up being very dissatisfied with that movie because his character's part kind of got downplayed in the final cut, and a lot of I guess what made up character motivation for him got left out. It was still a really good movie though, so I said, it wasn't. I know it wasn't the movie you wanted, but it was still a really good movie, and I was glad he made it. So I hope he took that to heart. The other movie that he's famous for is the second movie in the Purge series. If you've seen The Purge Anarchy, and that's one of the 3 essential Purge films or series that I think everyone should see. If you have ever heard of The Purge, you should watch the first movie with Ethan Hawke. You should watch The Purge Anarchy with Frank Grillo, and you should watch season 2 of The Purge on the USA network, which I think you can find on Hulu. Watch those 3 and you've seen really everything you need to see of The Purge. The other 2 movies, Election Year, even though Frank Grillo's in Election Year, that was not a terribly good movie. Neither was The Purge, The Forever Purge. That was the last movie in the series. And then there was one more called The First Purge. That one was interesting in that it featured a predominantly black cast, which is so refreshing in a movie just to see something like that. It was like the only white people in it were the evil white people. But it was the purge being carried out for the first time in a predominantly black district of New York, I think. And it was just it's sometimes interesting just to see a series where most of the characters are not white. I think there's so much of this mantra that, people aren't going to go and see movies that are about, black characters or minority characters or things like that. And I think there's a sense in which that's true, and there's a sense in which that's not. If you're going to make the movie about black culture, then that is probably not something that's going to be as attractive to white viewers. But if you're going to make a movie just about that's predominantly set with black people, but it's got an interesting concept that has nothing to do with race, then I think people would be just as interested in seeing that as anything else. It's just that we're so much more race conscious than we used to be. When I saw that, what was the Chris Rock movie? Was it called Death at a Funeral or something like that? I don't remember what the Chris Rock movie was called, but it had what's his name, the guy who played Tyrion Lannister on Game of Thrones, Peter Dinklage. He was in that. Somebody else was in that too, but that was mostly about a black family coming together for their patriarch's funeral. And I thought that was fine. I didn't have any problem going to watch that movie. In this day and age, it's almost like there's so much that's trying to emphasize the Black culture aspect of things, that I think that's turned off some white viewers. But I mean, it just is, if it's just because it involves Black characters, I don't think that's a turnoff to any viewers. I'm looking forward to seeing Marvel's Luke Cage series, because I heard that, that's almost like 100% Black cast or something like that. So that can be variety just in and of itself. So I went to see. Okay, so I got Frank Grillo's autograph, and then immediately after that, Christopher Mintz-Platz. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but he played the Red Mist in Kick-Ass. And this was where I had my first mishap, because I don't know if you can see this up here, but my my thumb went right in the freaking ink after he signed it, and so you can kind of see how it's like smeared around right there. Now it doesn't look bad, but I screwed up there because I was like, "Thank you so much." So I goofed that up. Oh, Sonic Man is asking Frog Tony for clarification. Did Bunny Man confront or just meet Eric July? Yeah, I don't know, because I wasn't there. Let's see. So Christopher Mintz-Platz, you'll notice how small his signature is, and I thought it was going to be huge, because I mean, Christopher Mintz-Platz. So that's like a large signature. And so he like signed it, and then he was like, "Do you want me to write the name of the supervillain under here?" And I was like, "Oh," because I thought he still had more of his name to write. And I was like, "Oh no, that's okay. Just go ahead and write your name." And he was like, "Okay, well, I'm done." I'm like, "Oh, well, yeah. I mean, if you've got the room, I just assumed your signature was going to be huge because of your name." And he was like, "Oh no, I shortened it down for this." So he was really friendly, though. I think he said he started doing that kind of stuff 7 months ago, was when he started getting on the Fan Expo scene. And really, okay, Frog Tony says Bunny Man got removed from the con after Eric called the cops. You got to be kind of a, I don't really have any regard for people who do that kind of thing. Maybe that's why they were a little bit on edge when when I went over there, is because they had that Bunny Man incident. Did that happen in the evening, or did that happen in the morning? I don't know when that happened, because I probably saw Eric around 3 o'clock ish. Maybe 2:30, 3 o'clock, 3:30 at the latest. And I don't know. I don't know what the mood was at that point. And I don't think anything was weird about it. But Christopher Mintz-Platz, he was really friendly, and he made a point to try and ask, people about their day, how things were going. And I asked him about, how long he'd been doing the cons and stuff. He said about 7 months. And so, welcome him to the Dallas circuit. So nice guy, really nice guy. And he was trying to really make connections with the fans so that they had a good experience. Then I went over to where all the Smallville people were all in a line. And this is where I wanted to get the one signature that I actually wanted to get for the whole con. If this particular actress had not been there, I would not have gone. And that was Erica Durance, who played Lois Lane on Smallville. So I took my John Byrne's Man of Steel there, and one of these days I got to get John Byrne to sign it to kind of complete my set. Although there's really no completing this set when it comes to Smallville, because issue number 3 features Batman on the cover, and I think Smallville was prohibited by DC from actually having a Bruce Wayne in the Smallville series, because then I think it probably would have doubled up on the licensing costs. So the Smallville series never had a Bruce Wayne, and I don't think they ever had the villain Magpie, who was in Man of Steel number 3. So there's no real way that I'm ever going to get a signature for that. Now issue number 5 is the last one that I have a need for a signature on, because like I said, now that I've got number 2, and this was the first time Erica Durance has been on the Fan Expo circuit, by the way. So she's a newcomer. So the Man of Steel series, it was 6 issues long. Issue number 1, I got signed by Tom Welling, because that one had Clark Kent on the cover. Issue number 2, now I've got Erica Durance's signature here. Erica Durance, Lois Lane. And then issue number 3, there's no getting a signature for that because Batman's not in Smallville. Issue number 4 was Michael Rosenbaum. That was the Lex Luthor introduction. Issue number 6 was Lana Lang. I got Kristen Krug to sign that. Issue number 5, I was tempted to get that signed by Tom Welling backwards because Bizarro is on the cover. But I did find out that one character who features prominently in that book, who is Lucy Lane, was played on Smallville. And she was played by Peyton List. So if Peyton List ever goes to one of those conventions, I'll have to go and get her signature for that. But other than that, I think that's probably it as far as, well, somebody mentioned that I should probably try and get John Schneider's signature, which I could do. I mean, he's in the world of the Jonathan Kent and Martha Kent. They're featured on the World of Smallville series that John Byrne did. So maybe someday, I don't know. I have been to see them before. They did a Dukes of Hazzard reunion at one of the fan expos one time, and people were asking interesting questions. People were not asking Tom Wopat enough questions. That was kind of the sad thing. You know, I kind of wanted to ask him about his Broadway career, because after the Dukes of Hazzard, he wound up doing a bunch of Broadway shows. Let's see. That was day 2 in the afternoon. Okay, this is talking about Bunny Man. Bunny Man got removed from the con after Eric called the cops. It's like, good Lord. That was day 2 in the afternoon, if I recall correctly. Frog Tony is saying this. He pulled up on Eric day 1 too. It was like, why make a nuisance of yourself, or what? Unless you're like there to actually help. And then, that's the only reason that I went. There's absolutely no reason that I would ever go to a comic book convention and go to a creator's table just to slam him, or just to make a nuisance of myself, just to say, this is, garbage or anything like that. I would never do that. I don't know what this Bunny Man guy actually did or said or something, so maybe I'm mischaracterizing him. But if you're going to be obnoxious like that, it's just crazy. All I was trying to do is point out, it's like, look, you've got a continuity glitch in your series. Here's the evidence of that, and I can show that a little later on. But that's and also I was also hoping to get one of my customer service issues handled there, but they don't do that at conventions, it turns out, which is probably smart. But yeah, I just don't understand that thing. Shadowpunk says, hail back. Yeah, just a reminder, everybody, I'm looking for $65 to purchase 2 copies of YAIRA number 3. I need one to read and one for scans. And then there is RIPPAZINE number 4. If I get all the way to $95, then I'll be looking at buying both YAIRA number 3 and RIPPAZINE number 4. So getting back to the con, the next person on the Smallville list was someone I had not yet gotten a signature from. And she's been around a few times on the circuit, but it was Laura Vandervoort, who plays Supergirl. And I thought, for the life of me, I thought that I had Supergirl number 1 that I could have her sign. I mean, that was just initially the instinctive thing that I saw, because there was a 4-issue Supergirl miniseries. And I just figured, okay, Supergirl number 1, no problem. And then I looked back through my collection and I realized, oh, wait, my collection of Superman stuff from Crisis going forward ends before that. So, oops, and then I had to search like, oh God, do I have anything, featuring Supergirl on the cover? And as it turns out, I have like the perfect Supergirl cover. I mean, good Lord, a picture of Supergirl punching out Superman. Not only that, but look at this nice L LexCorp building where it's got a nice little landing strip, no pun intended, a nice little landing strip to put the signature on. It's like, I can't think of a issue that's more perfect than this. And she actually flipped through it when she saw this. She was like, oh, cool, and she starts looking through it. And that's always neat when you realize you're exposing these celebrities to some of the material that's made them famous in the first place. And, she's able to do this. I mean, she's like humongous signature there, but really, really nice. So, yeah, there was Laura Vandervoort there. And the other person who okay, let's go back to the Frog Tony Chronicles over here, because he's telling us more about this Bunny Man guy who pulled up. Eric told people to pull. Oh, come on. Eric told people to pull up and have confrontations. Yeah, but come on. You don't have to be a dick about it. Bunny Man wanted an apology for calling the cops on Bunny Man for visiting the warehouse. Whatever. Oh my god. Okay, let's see. Shadowpunk is asking, is that a Jim Lee cover? I think it's Art. Is it Art T Bear? No, this is Art T Bear. So Art T Bear, he's a comic skater now, by the way, and he does the series Black and White. So you'll probably see him on Comic Skate Kings, or you'll see him on Billy Tucci, some of Billy Tucci's programs. So yeah, Art T Bear is the one who drew this. Let me see if the inkers are on here. It looks like Chris Trevor and Lewis Scott were the inkers, but Art T Bear was the penciler. So yeah, I can see where you might see a Jim Lee resemblance there, but Art T Bear is the cover artist on that. Oh, and I didn't even realize this was the interior of the book was drawn by Jackson Geiss, and Jackson Geiss sadly passed away just in the last couple of months. So didn't even realize that. He was one of my favorites, I want to say. I mean, it's not like I liked every single. Well, I mean, who likes every single issue? And an artist does, but I so remember fondly his for the few issues that he did for the Flash with Mike Barron. Those issues were drawn so well, largely because there was such a deviation from Carmine Infantino, who used to draw like he'd draw the Flash moving so slowly and slowly and slowly, and that it looked like he was moving slowly through a bunch of fast people that instead of the Flash moving quickly. Jackson Geiss relied a lot more on momentum and what looked like a runner's gait for the Flash instead of the tricks and techniques that Carmine Infantino used. Shadowpunk says, "Well done, Art T Bear." Yes, indeed. You seem like a Supergirl fan. When you review Supergirl books, do you set aside your analytical side? No, in fact, what's kind of funny is the one issue of late that I have. I'm not really a Supergirl fan. I don't know why that would give an impression other than, I mean, the only reason I took it was because I knew she'd be there. And since I was getting a signature from Eric Durant's, who plays Lois Lane, I'd go ahead and get one from her as well. So it was just a matter of, she's there. I may as well go ahead and get it, which gets freaking expensive, by the way. I did not realize how much these damn things cost now. The signatures were anywhere from $55 up to $100 per celebrity, depending on the star power. And so this, I don't even know who she is, and you do, so you must be a fan. No, I just know she played Supergirl on Smallville, because I mean, that's to me, that's just who was who on Smallville is a little bit of common knowledge to me. Even though I never even watched the show except for maybe one or two episodes. I watched the first episode of Smallville and I realized, okay, this is going to be like Dawson's Creek with superpowers, and I don't want to watch that. And then the other problem with it was their formula for the first season, at least, was somebody in Smallville would become empowered by the kryptonite rocks, and then Clark would have to fight the person with his powers, and then find a way to dispose of the kryptonite. And meanwhile, there's Lex Luthor on the scene who's going to cause trouble behind the scenes, and that was all. And then, of course, you had the relationship stuff between Clark and Lana. That seemed to be very formulaic, and it wasn't something that I was really interested in watching. So I didn't bother with that show. Every once in a while, they might have had maybe one or two episodes that I'm like, oh, they're having this guest character on, or oh, they're having this plot, or oh, maybe they're doing Brainiac or something like that. And I don't even know if I really watched any of that. I think I just saw the ads all the time in the comics. But I figured, may as well get it signed by her while she's there. And her line was not, God, I shouldn't say stuff like this, but her line was not terribly long. Let's see. She went on to do a show called, oh God, what was it? She went on to do a show about being a werewolf. I think it was called Bitten. I want to say the show was called Bitten, and I want to say it was on the WB, or maybe it was on Showtime or something. But she was the lead in that. Other than that, I'm not really sure what she did. As far as the character of Supergirl, Nah, I can't say I've really ever been a tremendous fan, especially when Dan DiDio basically said, I'm just going to throw away everything that we've done before with Supergirl and having her be the alternate dimension Matrix character and whatnot. And I'm just going to make her Superman's cousin again. I think the only recent thing that I've seen lately that where Supergirl was portrayed well was actually Tom King's Supergirl, the Woman of Tomorrow. I thought that was pretty interesting take on the character because she really seemed like a jaded version of Supergirl who had been through some serious crap and had seen more than any, teenager had a right to see in terms of war and death and famine and disease and things, because stuck on Argo City with all these people who were dying of kryptonite poisoning, and I think she was the one person who was able to get off of that asteroid before everybody died. It was like she just saw all of this tragedy and stuff. So I think Tom King did a good job with that. I kind of skimmed through that series, but I'll have to read it more seriously sometime. Shadowpunk said, I like Supergirl in the Justice League cartoon, and I never saw that Justice League cartoon that you're talking about, so I don't know about that. Let's see. So who else did I get? Now, the next person I wanted to get a signature from was Michael Rosenbaum, who played Lex Luthor, but he was not there at the time, so I decided I'd try the last person I actually got a signature from, and that would be one. If I can open it to the right page, thank you very much. God, what the hell? Okay, so the book is Shazam, so you can probably guess who it is that I got the signature from, because this is exactly the story that was pretty much done in the movie, and that would be Mr. Zachary Levi, who played Shazam in the 2 Shazam movies from DC of recent. So I got to talk to him briefly, and the thing that I told him was that he was in a movie called The Unbreakable Kid, and it was about a kid with brittle bone disease who had to kind of find a way to keep a upbeat attitude and live a positive life despite having this disability and whatnot. And I told him, I said, Candy Crush Saga has been pushing your movie hard. And he was like, really? and it was true. I mean, it was like every other ad that was in Candy Crush Saga for a few months there was for the Unbreakable Kid. It was like, oh my dear God, this ad again. So I was glad I got to tell him that. And I also congratulated him on the Shazam movies. And I liked the first season of Chuck also. That was kind of where his career really kind of took off, I think, the Chuck series, although I only stuck around for the first episode of that. And so Michael Rosenbaum, he finally came back after doing like signatures or a talk or something that he was doing with Tom Welling. And the thing I wanted to get, well, I say the thing I wanted to have him get signed was the DVD insert, or the collector's edition insert for my copy of The Thing. Now, you might think, oh, wait a minute, that's the John Carpenter movie from 1984. How old was he even when he got that, when that movie came out? Because he wasn't in this movie, obviously. But if you've ever watched his podcast called Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum, he has a poster of this up on his studio wall. And so I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I got a signature from him, and just based on the fact that he and I both like this movie. I mean, this is probably my favorite horror movie of all time, with It Follows coming in a close second. So this movie was one that I figured, hey, if he and I share an interest in the movie, then I'll go ahead and get him to sign that. And then I realized, and I didn't realize this until like the day before the con, that Keith David, who was in The Thing, he played Childs in this movie, was going to be there too. So I was going to go ahead and get the DVD insert signed by the both of them. Well, that line was just way too long. And the other reason I wanted to see Keith David was just to give a shout out to the series The Cape, which was a superhero-based series that was on NBC back in the day. And I forget who starred on it. He was a guy who later would star in the series Revolution, which was about when all the electricity went out all over the world. But uh, so he started in a series called The Cape, where he was kind of like a mentor to the guy who was in the lead role, and he worked for a circus or something like that. And then they had Vinnie Lyons, who would later go on to star in the show Gallivant. He was also in The Cape, but it was such a good superhero series. I mean, it was a superhero series in the tradition of, I don't know, Batman, Ghost Rider, those kinds of things, kind of Spawn, this cop who had, had a near death experience and then was given this costume that was able to give him certain abilities and stuff. It was a really good series. I don't know how many people remember it, but I tried looking it up on Peacock because NBC was where it played. I can't find that series, and I wish they would have it on a DVD or something. It would be so nice if that were the case. It's probably something I should have looked for back in the days of BitTorrent. Oh, let's see. What do we got here? Retro Red Light says, Eric July got trolled a few days at Dallas Con. Well, I hope I was not considered one of the trolls. Sonic Man says, good Shazam signature choice, as that storyline was actually adapted into a movie. Yeah, that's pretty much the reason that I got that one. Let's see. Retro Red Light. Never saw The Thing. Is it a sci-fi horror? Yes, it is, and I highly recommend it. Look for now. There's 3 different versions of The Thing, and you only want to look at the first 2. The third one sucks. The first one was actually released in the 1950s or 60s, and it's called The Thing from Another World. And they're 2 totally different movies, though, so you can watch both of them, and it's not like one is going to spoil the other. But the 50s version is a lot more just the standard kind of, threatening alien type thing, whereas there's a lot of special effects in the 1984 version, and it's got much more of a story about identity crises and things like that. So they're both like really good horror movies, but just watch the 1950s version, the 1984 version, and then there was a later movie that came out. I do not recommend watching that. It was just boring garbage. Let's see. Andrew Rowland said, I wish I could have met you at the com so I could give you a Homer Simpson strangle for the King of Justice score. Well, I'm glad I didn't meet you at the con then. Retro Red Light. I think I remember that show about all the power going out. Yeah, that was called Revolution. And you know what I found out about that movie was that, oh shoot, I don't want to spoil it, but basically it's one of those things where they defeat the show defeats its own premise, because they find a way at one point to turn all the power back on, but then because of how things were left in the state of the world when the world was ending, they got to shut it back off again. And it's like, oh great, well now you're never going to turn the power back on, right? So why the hell am I watching the show? It's like, good lord. Let's see. Sonic Man said Revolution was a good show. It came out on DVD. Retro Red Light said, do you like Dune? I think it's just okay. I like the Sci-Fi Channel ones the best. Yeah, my first exposure to Dune was back in the David Lynch movie. So I knew Sting was in there, and Sting was a popular rock star at the time. So I figured, okay, well, I'll give that a watch. And my dad had a copy of the book by Frank Herbert, and eventually I bought my own copy of that, which pissed him off because he felt I was wasting his money. But his book was literally falling apart. It had pages detached and everything. So I was like, look, I mean, the condition of this book is just crazy. So I got like the 25th edition version. I did not care for that book very much. I liked the politics and intrigue at the beginning of the book, but when they got into like the desert stuff and the Messiah stuff, I was not really huge on that. And I didn't realize that was a very Islam influenced book. The concept of the Mahdi or the Muad'Dib, in the book is kind of based on the some Islamic sects' versions of the Messiah. Well, not Messiah, because they believe Jesus is the Jewish Messiah, but there's another kind of Messiah type individual called the Mahdi, and he's supposed to lead Islam and triumph over the nations at the end of time, something like that. And so when you see it, you probably see a pretty good depiction of it in the 2 recent Dune movies, although those kind of bored me. I was not very impressed by the latest edition of Dune that was released by, what is it, Denis Villeneuve or whatever his name is. I really feel like they screwed up the Gom Jabbar scene by having the mother recite the anti-fear chant, and I also didn't care for really just the pacing of the movie, and that they I don't know, that was just not a good movie to me. Let's see. Retro Red Light says there was another show on ABC, I think, about people getting cloned and alien stuff. I don't know what that one was. Sonic Man says my copy of Dune has the Dune movie 1984 cover artwork for book to film adaptations. Do you care if the book cover art is from the film version? For the book cover art? Oh, from book to film adaptations? Do I care if the book cover art is from the film version? I guess not. I mean, I understand the marketing behind it, so it's not like it doesn't make sense to have the book reflect the cover. I mean, even books that, they don't have the same, like Die Hard. Die Hard was based on a novel, and I've actually read the novel that Die Hard was based on. In fact, the first 2 Die Hard movies were based on novels, and and so I've read both of those, and yeah, that I think they when they put some of the art on there, and because they were saying, the novel that was the basis for Die Hard, it's like, so of course I had to read that because my God, I saw that movie like 13 times. Tehillim 29 says, Shalom and good to see you, Mike Partika. Good to see you as well. Let me go ahead and remind everybody that this is a bribe stream. I am looking for funding for reviewing YAIRA number 3 and RIPPAZINE number 4. So I'm looking for $65 will get me 2 copies of YAIRA number 3. And then if we go all the way to $95, then we will get both YAIRA number 3 and RIPPAZINE number 4. So far, we are at dead freaking zero. So it doesn't look like I'm going to be reviewing either of those books, which is a load off of me, I guess. But, y'all are going to be missing out on the content. Yeah, the RIPPAZINE number 4. When I saw it was written by the Saska sisters, because I like to give new writers a try when they are going through, like when Carol Brown writing RIPPAZINE number 3, like to give her writing a try, and then you got. But then when I saw the Saska sisters on RIPPAZINE number 4, I'm like, freaking why? What do they need a showcase for? They've got enough work as far as that stuff goes. Let's see. So what is the total expected to get both? $95. So I hope I've been making that clear. I'm not saying I need $95 to read RIPPAZINE number 4 by itself. For both of those, it's going to be, or are you saying the total expected as far as like what kind of money they're going to rake in? Is that the totals? Oh yes, that's US dollars. So $95 US. That's what I'm looking for to do both YAIRA number 3 and RIPPAZINE number 4. So that's what I'm looking for there, and that'll basically recoup some of my costs for my admission just to the what do you call it, the Dallas Fan Expo. I mean, my goodness, I cannot tell you how much ridiculous money I spent on getting these signatures. I mean, from $55 to $100 per signature. I never expected it to be that much. I mean, I was at the point where I think I was only going to be able to afford one more signature with the money that I had brought in my wallet. And so it's like, forget it, after that. So let's see. So Keith David and Michael Rosenbaum, by the time I got around to, I'd already gotten all the rest of the signatures that I needed. Keith David's line was like wrapped around and around and around and around. Michael Rosenbaum's was about as bad. And I just figure, well, the only thing that I had left to get signed was this one thing. If I didn't get it signed, I'll live. So, it's like, forget it. So I decided I'd go away disappointed on that one. But then it was time to go find the Rippaverse. Now there were some other celebrities that I did want to talk to. Unfortunately, most of the time when you're dealing with those celebrities who are at the tables, let's see. Retro Red Light says I do think George Lucas got ideas from Dune. wouldn't surprise me. There's cross-pollination all over the place. Uh, One of the things about dealing with the celebrities at the Fan Expo is that if you're not going to buy something from them, generally speaking, they don't have terribly much interest in talking to you unless they have nobody at their table, and then you might be able to chat them up for a little bit until somebody comes along to get something signed. But there were a few people there who I would have liked to talk to if I had the chance. Dirk Benedict from Battlestar Galactica, the original Battlestar Galactica. He was the original Starbuck back in the day. Plus, he was in the A Team, and Mr. T was there too. But I had more connection with Dirk Benedict than Mr. T because although I watched a bunch of episodes of the A Team, it was not a show that I really got into from the start because I never did see the first episode of it. So it was not something that I really gravitated toward. Who else was there? David Boreanaz was there, and it would just be fun to get a chance to talk with him again because the first time that I saw him, it was right before Angel came out. And, Buffy the Vampire Slayer is, of course, where he got famous, and then he got his own show, Angel, after that. And when Angel was right about to premiere, he came over to the Galleria here in Dallas, the Galleria Mall, and he was at the Levi's outlet store doing a signing. So I wound up getting a TV guide with him on the cover signed by him. And I asked him, I said, well, do you think Angel's going to be on right after Buffy? And he said, God, I hope not. That'll be overkill. And I just wanted to tell him, it's like, well, it was never overkill. So you never had to worry about that. Let's see. Retro Red Light says Dune has family problems like Star Wars. Yeah, but their family problems weren't really evident in the first trilogy. I mean, Princess Leia wasn't even Luke Skywalker's sister to begin with. I don't know how many people know that. Retro Red Light says Star Wars does it so much better. I don't really feel like they're two branches of the same tree. Daniel says hibbity jibbity crappy businessman. I'm getting to that part. Retro Red Light says, I met Telk from Stargate SG-1. Nicest dude, and he did not care if you bought anything. Yeah, I mean, some people will talk to you. I mean, I talked to Anthony Daniels one time, who played C-3PO in the Star Wars movies, and didn't have to buy anything from him. But like I said, I mean, these are people whose tables were pretty much clear. There have been times when I'm like, can I just stand in line to talk to the guy? And they're like, nah, it's just for people who want to buy something. I think it was Stephen Amell's table or something that was like that. But I understand. I mean, the celebrities are there to make money. I mean, they're not there just for, trying to see the crowds and all that. They could be just propping up their feet at home, watching TV if they wanted. So, I never begrudge anybody who's out to make a buck. And speaking of people who are out to make a buck, so the last person who I talked to before I left was or were there a couple of people? This is where I wish I had my phone with me, but Timothy Zahn, who was the writer of many Star Wars novels. I actually saw him when he was there at the convention, and I got to tell him that his book Outbound Flight, which was the book that it actually cannot, in the timeline of Star Wars, it introduces Admiral Thrawn into the Star Wars universe. And if anybody's seen Ahsoka, that series, then you know what I'm talking about as far as Admiral Thrawn goes. So he's supposed to be a master strategist. And the way that Timothy Zahn wrote Outbound Flight, it was like freaking amazing as far as the twists and turns that take place in that book. Just absolutely love that one. And I am now listening to the Star Wars audiobooks of his original Heir to the Empire, Dark Force Rising, and The Last Command. So I'm listening to those books now, and I plan on listening to the rest of his Thrawn books. Hopefully they'll be just as good, because they're almost like Jeffrey Deaver stories in how they, just take such a sharp turn at places. Retro Red Light said, I went to one con. Some dude from the WWF said hi to me. I said, sorry, I don't know who you are. He said, it's okay. No one does. He was a funny dude. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think probably the worst occasion that I ever had of that was when I went to see Richard Hatch at a Comic-Con. He was the guy who played Adama in Battlestar Galactica, and I wanted to bring up the fact that I had seen him in there was a there used to be a show on TV called Circus of the Stars. I don't know how many people remember that, but Circus of the Stars, they actually had real celebrities doing circus acts of various kinds. Is he the fish alien from Star Wars? No, I don't believe so. Uh, he did. He also played on the recent Battlestar Galactica. He was Tom Zarek, who was the vice president, or I think he was the original vice president of the Republic before Laura Roslin got elected to the presidency, something like that. So he was instrumental in the mutiny arc of that series. And what else we got? So I went to see Richard Hatch, and one of the things he was giving a talk with Mira. Oh no, I'm totally getting it wrong. It was Bruce Boxleitner and Mira Furlan from Babylon 5. That's who I went to see, and that's where I really stuck my foot in my mouth, because they started talking about somebody, and it was obviously somebody who had passed away, but I could not place who it was they were talking about. So I actually raised my hand. I was like, "Who is it we're talking about again?" And it turned out to be the doctor from Babylon 5. I forget his name, and there's yeah. So yeah, that was awkward. It's like, oh, of course, oh yes, of course, I remember, yes. Let's see. Oh, Retro Redline says he remembers Circus of the Stars. Alpha and Omega, can you be reached any other way besides Gab? I didn't want to start yet another social media account. I don't really have any. I mean, the thing is like I prefer to have Gab as my centralized place of contact, because it's just easier there than anywhere else. I don't want to create a whole like bunch of social media accounts either, but I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm wondering, where is everybody? Because I can't get onto X. I got banned for life from X, so I'm not. I won't be getting an account there unless someday I start a business, and then I'll be posting things under a business ID. But as far as personal stuff, no, not now. As far as Gab goes, I mean, it's yeah, take the effort. That's all I'm saying. Besides, Gab needs more normal people on it. God knows they've got enough like neo-Nazis and racists and stuff. They just need some normies. So I went to the Rippaverse table. So that's the part that I was getting to. And there were two reasons why I wanted to go to the Rippaverse table. And reason number one was that I had a problem with my last order. Now, I know, Comic Cons are not really where they're going to handle customer service type stuff. But I thought I might be able to actually save them some money if they could handle my problem there. Because what happened was I had an order where, and I've created a support ticket for this, my order for Zaylin and ISOM number 3 contained 2 copies each of those. So I wound up with Zaylin, What Kills Must Die, and I said I want 2 copies of cover D. And then ISOM number 3, I wanted a cover A and a cover D. And then they threw in this copy of Alpha Core number 1 cover A. They're actually giving this stuff away to orders of $100 or more. It's like, are you serious? Can you actually afford to be giving stuff away at this point? I don't know about that. I mean, how desperate are they now? So they gave me a free Alpha Core number 1 cover A, because this is not even the mass market one. This is this is one of the ones that you had to specify that you wanted. So they're doing they're sending those out for orders that are over $100. And I figured I went ahead and I took that just because if for some reason I needed to take something to get signed, if I was going to be able to talk to Eric July or to talk to anyone else, that I'd have that book ready. So the problem is that when I got my order, it only had 1 copy of Zaylin in it. And yes, the copy I got was one that had the misprint in there, which I didn't really feel like that was a big deal. The misprint art, I mean, yeah, you can see where the belts kind of gets duplicated in there on the double page spread and whatnot, and probably that happens throughout the book. I don't know. I didn't bother to check, but it wasn't such a huge deal that I was like, I need to wait until there's a corrected copy. I'm not gonna I'm gonna get a refund for that one. I wanted both of my copies because I need one for scans. I've got my one copy of Zalen as my reading copy, but I don't want to butcher it until I've got the other copy in hand. So I've got a support ticket into Rippaverse, but I thought it's going to cost them money to ship that to me. I don't know how much it costs, but it's going to cost something. And I figured if they had copies of Zalen #1 there, and they were willing to just hand me another misprinted copy of Cover D, I'd just take that. And that way they don't have to go through the shipping, and I can just close out my ticket and everything's good. But they didn't bring any copies of Zalen to the convention, so I was out of luck in that respect. I think it was Carol Brown that I talked to when I was there. I haven't really seen a lot of these people online or on their podcasts or anything, so I don't know them on site. So I think that's who I was talking to, and she just told me, or we're not handling those kinds of customer support things. If I don't hear anything from them by the end of the day on Monday, then reach out to them again just to make sure that I'm in the queue. Let's see, Retro Red Light. Someone at WB hated Babylon 5. They would not even pay $3,000 to store a copy of the show higher than DVD. They did rescan Babylon 5, and they used software to upscale the 3D stuff. That's how they made the HD Babylon 5 for Blu-ray. Okay, well, that's good to know. Yeah, Babylon 5, I actually did like that series. I didn't start watching until Bruce Boxleitner got on the show. So I watched season 2 through 4, and then they also had the series ending episode because they changed networks from season 4 to season 5. And so they said, well, for all the fans who have been hanging on with us on this network, and they're not going to be able to jump over to TNT, which was a high dollar cable channel at the time. Let's just go ahead and play the last episode, which, it really didn't matter that they had a whole other season that they were potentially able to fit in. So I watched Babylon 5 all through the end of the 4th season. Honestly, I don't know if there was even anything in the 5th season that was terribly worth watching. But seasons 2, 3, and 4, they were really good seasons, or at least halfway through season 4, because I think they resolved the main war that was going on halfway through the fourth season, and so the rest of the season was just kind of like dribs and drabs of other plot threads or things like that. So anyway, after I talked with Carol Brown and about my customer support issue, which unfortunately is not yet resolved. Oh, Alpha and Omega, 1999. Thank you so much. We are finally on our way. We're on our way towards our $65 total for YAIRA #3. YAIRA #3, $65. And then if we're going to go all the way to YAIRA #3 and RIPPAZINE #4, which is another Saska Sisters product. Thank you very much, Alpha and Omega. Says, get you started. Thank you. You absolutely did. So let's, I have not done any of these goals. Do you think I should bother with that? Or is that asking too much? I was thinking maybe I should put a goal thing up here, but maybe not. Maybe I'll do that someday. So, the goal, well, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. Maybe I'll do that next time. Next time I do our bribe stream, maybe I'll do that. And maybe I'll have to do a separate one for RIPPAZINE #4 and just get YAIRA #3 for now. Because YAIRA #3 ends in 8 days, I think. I think there's only like another 8. Let's take a look at that. Rippaverse. And we're looking at YAIRA #3, and there are how many days left in the campaign? Come on. Man, this is going slow. I think I guess it's because of my live streaming. I don't know. Why would it be taking this long? Am I glitching up or anything? Let's see. Retro Red Light said, I heard they finished up with season 4 because they did not know if the show was going to get picked up again, which makes sense because I know they did go to from the UPN network, which was a local channel, to TNT, which was a cable channel at the time. So I wound up losing access to that show. Oh, come on. Okay, there we go. 8 days. Yes, 8 days left in the pre-order collection. So we've got those 8 days remaining to get the $65 needed in order to for me to do a review of YAIRA #3. So that's what's on the docket. And then $95 combined gets YAIRA 3 and RIPPAZINE #4. Both of these are Saska Sisters products, so you know I'm not looking forward to those. Honestly, it's just God. Okay, so after I got done having my customer support issue handled, so I got to show you what it is that I did to prepare for the Dallas Fan Expo. For the Dallas Fan Expo, I printed out a copy of the Mick Davies entry on the Rippaverse website. So I don't know if you know this, but you can go to the rippaverse.com and there's a header up above that says characters. And let's see, Retro Red Light says Rippaverse comics are so bad that they don't even bootleg them anymore. Yeah, that's kind of sad. I know. Let's see, I have seen bootleg copies for a few of them, but it's not consistent, and they definitely don't. I don't think they do that RIPPAZINE at all. So anyway, I went onto the characters page of the Rippaverse website, and one of them, and I mentioned this in my latest video talking about the Dirty Deeds story. I had to go to the characters webpage in order to find one of the names of the Dirty Deeds characters because they left the name of the character out of the story. And like, guys, can you at least make sure the writing's tight enough that by the end of the story we know who all these characters' names are, please? You know, you named 5 of them and then you just left out the team leader's name. Way to go. So I went ahead and printed out, when I went to that page to find out the name of that character, which was Rinlin, I spotted Mick Davies and I thought, oh, Mick Davies. I wonder if his page has been corrected yet. And it has not. Now, I need to actually find out if it's been corrected yet. I doubt that it has because everybody's having too much fun at the convention. But believe me, I will be keeping an eye on this throughout the coming weeks because now I have delivered some extra information as far as this stuff goes. Mick Davies. Mick Davies. And has anything changed? Nope, still is a detective. Mick often partners with Callie Briggs. Mick is an excellent detective, and yep, it is still Host. So anyway, I printed this out to say this is what's on the website right now, and you know, either fix it or don't. But it's out there and it's not fixed. But I first took this over to the Saska Sisters, and the Saska Sisters really friendly. Overly friendly, I would say. I mean, I think it was Jen who offered me a hug, and I wasn't even asking for one. So it's like, oh yeah, thank you so much. And let me tell you. So I went up to I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry, I have to tell you what the hell it is that I'm actually holding here. So I ran an experiment. What the? I think Daniel just said for the second time, hibbity jibbity crappy businessman. Okay. So I did an experiment. And the reason I did the experiment is because I wanted to rule out any possibility that the problem was me. There are a lot of cases where the problem is me, but this was not going to be one of them. And, you know, like I have screwed up before when reviewing a Rippaverse book. If you've seen my reviews of The Great War of Separation #1, you will know that I screwed up when I was analyzing the Texas flag. The new flag of Texas in the Great War of Separation #1 has a pair of crossed guns drawn in black on a dark blue background. And I did not see those guns. And so when I was looking at the new flag and they were saying a new flag is flying over the State House, I'm like, that's just the Texas flag. I don't see why they're calling this a new flag. And so I had to rationalize a way that that was the new flag. And I successfully did that, which is why I kept that video up, and I haven't tried to change it, but I did post correction after correction on YouTube saying I screwed this up. This is not, an actual criticism of them. I'm going to leave up the prior content to show how I was able to rationalize away what I thought that there was a mistake. But then, in fact, they did not make a mistake in that case because they had those two crossed guns. And thank goodness somebody spotted that, because I would have just been looking like a complete moron, and deservedly so. I mean, I should not have been reading that book in a room with such bad lighting that I could not distinguish the black from the blue and not see those guns on the flag. But on the other hand, you would kind of think that you would want the audience to be able to see the update to the flag. So why not make the guns maybe like white on blue instead of black on blue? Yeah. Let's see. Retro Red Light talking about Babylon 5 again. The first captain of Babylon 5 had really bad mental health issues. He ended up in a halfway house. Yes, I do recall that. Yeah, he wound up with schizophrenia, I think. And he was struggling by the end of the first season. So they replaced him with Bruce Boxleitner. Now, they did bring him back for a couple of episodes that involved some time travel motifs, and showed some interesting how he wound up becoming kind of a legendary figure in Minbari history. I think that happened sometime in episode or season 4 or something like that. So okay, so my experiment, I needed to make sure beyond the shadow of a doubt that the problem was not me when it came to the Mick Davies issue, because in case you've missed some of my prior shorts or other, I don't know if I mentioned this in my live streams or other videos, but I had been sending super chats to Eric July on Geeks and Gamers and on Heels versus Babyface. Now, I can't send anything to him on Rippaverse, and I can't send anything to him on his own channel because he's got me, shut off from sending messages on both of those. I think I'm hidden on his channel. I can't even send him money. That's how bad it is. So I have sent stuff on Geeks and Gamers, which I will not do anymore because Geeks and Gamers is strictly a video gaming channel. I've come to understand, and so I don't want to mess with their motif as far as trying to send stuff that's Rippaverse specific anymore. That's comic book stuff. If it's a video game channel, then I'm just going to let them have their video game stuff. But Heels versus Babyface, they do both of those. And so when the Rip and Silverback show is on there, then I feel fine about leaving a super chat. And so I left super chat after super chat trying to tell him about the Mick Davies issue. And what I gathered from him, from the things that he said, and I have him recorded in some of the shorts, is that Mick Davies is the white police chief that we see at the beginning of ISOM number 1. He's the guy who is saying, like this quote right here, "What do we have to do to get some credit around here?" Now, this quote is a quote from ISOM number 1. It is uttered by the chief of police, who then tells, these two particular officers to get out of his office. And they do. And then he's like, oh gosh, these lazy cops and all that. And then a cop busts in and says, "She's back." And he's like looking at the screen and horrified because YAIRA is back in town. He makes his next appearance in YAIRA number 1, which was written by the Soska sisters. And there he appears as the white police chief again. Now, the problem, there's a twofold problem with Mick Davies. And one of those problems is that on the website, he's listed as a detective rather than as the chief of police. It shows here that his alter ego is Detective Davies. It shows here that, oh God, I can't get this thing to focus. I can't get anything. Come on. Help me out here. All right. Mick is an excellent detective. And then in his investigations, Mick also often partners with Callie Briggs. They make a balanced team. And so he is presented on the website as a detective instead of as the chief of police. Now, it is entirely possible that he starts out as a detective at some point in the past and has been elevated to the chief of police since then. I mean, I'm not ruling out that possibility, but that's not what the website currently shows. There's nothing on here saying that he was ever made chief of police. So I mentioned that, well, and then there's another problem because there's also Horseman, Welcome to Fluorospark. And I have the color page here. So with Horseman, Welcome to Fluorospark, I printed out this page from Horseman in color and laminated it. Let's see. Talem says, well, if my channel ever gets monetized, you're welcome to send in a super chat. Let's see. And you'd make a great editor for Rippaverse. Yeah, if only I trusted them enough to actually want to have a job there anymore. So here is the page from Horseman. And on this page, you have these people or these detectives who are overseeing a crime scene. Now you have this detective here who is a male, and you have this detective here who is Callie Briggs. She's a female. And he calls her Callie at one point on this page. So we know this is Callie Briggs. So according to her calling him Mick at this point, and then Brian Solari descending and calling him Davies, then, and also saying that he's a detective, then this is Detective Mick Davies. Okay, so Detective Mick Davies, who I believe, based on his hair coloring and his complexion, is non-white. So either that or one person I think actually said, well, maybe he's a white Hispanic. Okay, all right, whatever. So, but I'm thinking in terms of Caucasian versus, non-Caucasian, and maybe I should have specified that. But yeah, he doesn't look at all like this guy. I mean, this is two different guys. I mean, just judging from the facial features and the hair coloring, and neither of these guys look like the guy who appears in ISOM 1 or YAIRA number 1. What is that? Retro Red Light says that time travel guy reminds me of the guy in Star Trek, the first show about a guy that was good and bad. Yeah, not sure which one that is. Cowboy Bebop asks, what are your thoughts on Death Shroud being published by RIPPAZINE? This is the first time I'm hearing about Death Shroud, so I have no real thoughts on that. I don't know anything about that series. I've heard that it's one that has was crowdfunded earlier and may have missed its target or something, but I really don't know anything about it. So I went to one of the local comic shops here in Dallas. And what I wanted to do was show this page to people and get their opinions on it. Because when I would send in super chats to Eric on either Geeks and Gamers or Heels versus Babyface, and I would say there are 3 Mick Davies in the Rippaverse, if you count the one on the website and the one that's here in Horseman and the one that's in ISOM number 2, or no, ISOM number 1 and YAIRA number 1, you get 3 Mick Davies. Okay, so what's up with that? And my solution would be, just make the black detective the son of the white police chief, and problem solved. That's how you manage to get 2 different cops of the same name on the same police force. But Eric would maintain strenuously that the white police chief is Mick Davies, and that's it. And so there is no other issue, and it's just my confusion. Creedence Desire says, hi. And you're just in time for me to start explaining this whole Mick Davies thing. So there's 3 Mick Davies that exist in the Rippaverse across the books and across the website. So will the real Mick Davies please stand up? I tried to make that clear to Eric on live streams, and Eric rebuffed the idea that there even was any kind of problem. So I decided I needed to do a test, because if I'm the one who's confused, then I'm the one who's confused. But if it confuses everyone else, then there's an actual problem. So I took this page over to the local comic book shop, Titan Comics in Dallas. Shout out to Jeremy Shore and all the staff out there. And I made up a survey. that was based on comic book page interpretation. So basically, I would have people initial here, and then I said, look at this page and pick out the 3 most significant characters on the page and fill out all the information you can about them. And it's okay to answer I don't know. There's no problem with answering I don't know. So I had people read this page. I got 9 customers and 1 staff member to read the page and give their answers. And every single one of the people who answered, they didn't all give the same answers, by the way. So, you know, it's interesting how people would interpret things or misinterpret things on the page. But every single one of the people who answered this survey, whether, you know, whoever it was, they answered it that the male detective was named either Mick or Davies or Mick Davies. So in all of these, like, for example, here's an example of someone who showed that it's Mick Davies, who's the male detective. Although he saw the detective as being white, but I think he was the one who said it was a white Hispanic. So that's one thing. You gotta. I keep forgetting Hispanic is ethnicity, white is race, and you can have white Hispanics and black Hispanics. And so if you're going to be down to that technical level, you can't just say white or non-white. So I had, let's see, I think I had about 3 people calling him Mick. There were about 5 people who called him Mick Davies, and then there were a couple of people who just called him Davies. But it's obvious that this guy was Mick Davies in some sense of the word. And so I went ahead and I put this together in a packet and put the page on here and stapled it together with the 10 surveys, with the information. And I took it first to the Soska sisters. The Soska sisters were sitting at their own table. Eric had about 2 or 3 people stacked up. And I didn't really want to talk to him first anyway, because if he recognized me from the live streams, I was figuring, well, he might cut things off. So I wanted to go to the Soska sisters, who had never seen me before, and I'd never talked to them at all on a live stream or anything like that. So I went to them, and, you know, one of them, you know, immediately stands up and gives me a hug. I'm like, oh, thank you very much. Not sure how much she's going to think I deserve that in a few minutes. But I asked them, I said, so are you the lore keepers? You're the continuity masters and stuff? Yeah, exactly. Credence Desire says, Soskas are the lore keepers after all. Cowboy Bebop said, Eric should just make Mick Davies into an Except who shapeshifts if he's just going to make that dude look different in every comic. Yeah, you know how there's a shapeshifter in Great War of Separation #1. I hope it's not the same guy. And then Credence Desire says, yeah, the guy changes appearances when the situation calls for it. It's like, well, what appearance, what reason was there for the guy to turn black for this particular detectiving situation? So I went up to the Soska sisters, and you know, one of them gave me a hug, and then I said, so you're the lore keepers of the Rippaverse, right? You're the ones who are, you know, supposed to make sure that there are no continuity glitches. Credence Desire says was a shady area. Yeah, I was just trying to blend in. And they said, yeah, well, you know, we do our best. You know, it's like, good God, they're already hedging their bets. And I said, well, you know, I wanted to let you know that there's a Mick Davies issue. and so I said, you know, it says here that, you know, Mick Davies, you do know that Mick Davies is the white police chief at the beginning of ISOM #1, but here it says that he's a detective. And they're like, no, he's a detective. And I'm like, okay, you're saying he's a detective? It's like, oh yeah, Mick Davies is a detective. I was like, okay, well, according to what Eric said to me on Super Chat, he's the white chief of police. And they're like, no, Holcomb is the white chief of police. I'm like, okay. I know that there is a chief of police in Alpha Corps, and that's Holcomb. And thankfully, I have my copy of Alpha Corps right here. And so we can see where Holcomb is giving Solari the dressing down, but you'll notice that Holcomb is like completely bald or almost completely bald. So I don't think that's the same guy unless he just wears a toupee at different times or something when he's in these comics. But so Holcomb is completely different from like Mick Davies or anybody else. So I'm just kind of like, okay, so Mick Davies is the detective, right? And he said, yeah. So he's also, so he's a white detective here, but he's a black detective here on this page. And they're like, and I'm just pointing out, it's like, so, and Eric said he's the white police chief. So I'm having a hard time figuring out what it is that, that he's the detective. And that's when they started pulling this card on me. And I swear to God, I mean, my jaw almost dropped when I heard this. They said, well, we weren't hired on at the time of ISOM #1. We didn't get hired on until later. Yeah. At the time that they got hired on, there were only 3 books in the Rippaverse at all. There was ISOM #1, ISOM #2, Alpha Core #1, and didn't YAIRA #1 come out after that? I don't think there was anything. I don't think there was anything after that. And Mick Davies was in YAIRA #1, so they should know who Mick Davies is because they were in their book. So, and I was trying to tell them, it's like, yeah, but Mick Davies was in YAIRA #1 and he was the white police chief in that one. And they're like, but we were only hired, and he's the same guy who was in ISOM #1. They're like, yeah, but we weren't hired on for ISOM #1. I'm like, but you were hired on for YAIRA #1. And at this point, they were just completely confused. And so finally, I think it's Jen who looked at me and just said, so what do you want? And I just remember thinking the one time I had seen that kind of change of disposition was when it was actually at a previous Comic-Con where there was a guy outside who was scamming people. And I knew he was scamming people. And so I asked him because I just wanted to know things. It's just kind of like, so what is the deal here where you're asking people if they want money for this and you're doing this or you're offering this, but what is the catch here or something? And you could see the guy's demeanor just changed altogether. And he was just kind of like, man, I don't know, like, what do you want or something? And, and he was, and because he knew the jig was up. And that was the feeling I got when I heard one of the Saska sister, I think it was Jen, say, so what do you want? It was almost like, okay, yes, there's a problem. What about it? Like, not thank you for bringing this to our attention, not, oh, we really need to look into that. It's like, what are you expecting? And I said, well, what I'd like is, I think what I said is literally, well, what I want is for the website to be fixed. And then I want somebody to explain why there's two Mick Davies besides that in the Rippaverse. And then I handed it to her and I said, this is for you. And they were staring daggers at me at this point. Because I just set that in front of them like, this is for you. I had 3 copies of the thing with me. And I just got this impression like, oh my God, is this the culture within the entire company? Like, we can't admit to a mistake. And if we do and if there is a problem somehow, we've got to shift the blame away from ourselves as much as we possibly can. And I know there are some people who are going to be like, well, but Eric copped to his mistake when it was, yes, 3 copies, 1 for the 2 sisters and Eric. That is exactly what I did. Just in case I got a chance to talk to them separately, then I would have handed out 1, 2, 3. Oh my God. Yeah. Everybody's cracking up in the chat. One of them's like, Cap. The Cowboy Bebop is saying, well, maybe he's bald because of stress, the Saska sisters. And Creedence Desire is like, it's their book. Retro Red Light says, that's funny. They're doing damage control. AMD Creations is laughing his ass off. Creedence Desire, like, they got confused with their own lore. Retro Red Light, I'm a moron and I know this stuff. Creedence Desire says, what do you want? I don't know. Some clarity, probably correction of a lore. What else? Yeah, pretty much. And then when at the point where I told him about, I handed it over to him, like, no way. So the Helium 29 says, so the Saska sisters are carbon copies of Eric. Like, seemed like it. I mean, it definitely seemed like it. So I left a packet with them so that they could review it at their leisure. But oh my God, the look that I got. So then Eric was not there at that point. I think he'd left for a restroom break. And then so I went off to the corner and I just started catching up on my texts. And I figure, okay, I'll wait till he gets back and then I'll go see him. So he got back and there were about a couple of people in line ahead of me. And so finally I got to see him and I said, I didn't want to like get the whole Mick Davies thing out in front of him right at first because I didn't want him to realize like, oh God, it's this guy from the internet. So what I did was I said, hey, I haven't seen you since the Farman feed. Was it Cowboy Bebop? Was it daggers from both of them or just one of them? Well, I want to say it was both of them because neither of them like reached for the document after I laid it down in front of them. It's like, oh dear God, it's got autism cooties on it or something. But so I want to say it was both of them. I just remember the daggers, especially from Jen. But if that was the one that I was talking to, I like I say, I don't really know how to tell them apart. So yeah, that was one of those. Yeah. And so I went to Eric and I said, hey, I haven't seen you since the Farman feed get together in Plano. And so he was remembering. It's like, oh yeah, the Farman feed. I was like, yeah, right. And of course, I don't know if he remembered me from that at all. I only met him like for close to a few seconds and just said good luck with the comics and stuff because that was like really, really early on. I mean, ISOM #1 had just come out and I was only just starting to review it and stuff. So I don't know how many videos I had on it out by then. But that was a restaurant out in Plano. And it's a place where gamers can go and they can rent time on video games to play while they're eating at the restaurant. So it's an interesting concept joint. And sometimes they'll have YouTubers there who are into live streaming games and stuff like that. So I went, I was like, yeah, I remember you from the Farman feed thing. It's like, oh yeah. It's like, you know what? I actually did an academic study using one of your Rippaverse comics. And he's like, oh really? And so I showed him, I said, yeah, I did a survey on comic book page interpretation. And so I showed them this page from Horseman number, from Horseman Welcome to Florist Park, page 57. I showed them this page and then I asked them about what, the three most significant characters on the page. And as it turns out that every person in this survey referred to the black detective on the page as either Mick Davies or Mick Davies. And I was like, I know now. So it's pretty clear that there's kind of a thing. He's like, huh? It's like, I'm not really sure what the confusion is. And I said, yeah, well, I know you said he was that Mick Davies was the white police chief, not a detective. He's like, oh no, Mick Davies is a white detective. And now I'm just kind of like, what? And at this point I was like, okay, it's time for me to take my superhero mask off and just basically say, yeah, you didn't say that on Super Chat to me earlier on when you said he was the white police chief from Florist Park. And by the way, here it is on the website as well. And it's got and at this point I can see like there's one Rippaverse guy who's like coming around to Eric's side, like, I better make sure that, everything's okay here. I don't know if that was Andrew or somebody else. And then I think Kara was coming back around on the left hand side, so I can kind of see this like pincer movement going on. and, and so I'm like, yeah. So anyway, these are the 10 surveys that I showed where all of these people are identifying the black detective from Horseman as Mick Davies, and then here is the the white detective Mick Davies, and then of course you had said on the that Mick Davies was the white police chief in Flores Park. So there's a conflict somewhere. And the convoy people, I was like, bro, what are they going to jump you? It's like, no, but I was being like perfectly polite this entire time. And so anyway, and so of course I said, well, Richard Red Lights and the Rippaverse staff were smoking weed. At this point, they were pretty attentive. So I was like, so anyway, this is for you. You can hold on. And he's just kind of like, and one of the guys come, I was going to hand it to I think it was Andrew on the left, but Kara was like, oh, let me see that. And so I was like, oh, here you go. So I handed it to her. And I was like, so thanks, hey, good luck good luck in the future and all that. So I just at that point I split. But oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That was fun. Tahilum29 says, at least Rippaverse promises to deliver their product on time, unlike EVS, which will have you wait 10 years for the next volume. It honestly, it all depends on how good the product is when it's delivered. It's like, I mean, now I do feel for the people who have not yet gotten like their honeycomb boxes that they should have gotten by now because they're missing the head sketches or what have you. I'd love to see him finish up on that just so his reputation doesn't take a continual hit. But honest to God, I would rather, have a comic book take every 10 years and be good than have to deal with crap after crap after crap after crap coming out every month. I don't understand people who are willing to accept these substandard comics like all the time, coming out on a regular basis. Let's see, Creedence Desire. Well, Carol probably is the actual writer there. I mean, she's on the level of the Soska sisters. That's about as good as I can say. I did the review on Dirty Deeds, so you can look that up in case you missed that. But I did do a review of that story, and that it's just kind of a little on the tepid side. But I was kind of a little bit relieved that Carol was the one to take the packet from me, because I thought, well, maybe now it'll actually have a chance of getting read, because I have a feeling if I gave it to Eric, its next location would have been a dumpster somewhere. I mean, even Andrew, I don't know. So if a comic book is going to take 10 years, you may as well deliver an omnibus. Oh, I mean, I can't argue with that, but Retro Redline says, you're like the caring teacher trying to help out his idiot students. By the way, I want to remind everybody, this is a bribe stream. If you want me to review YAIRA number 3, I'm looking for $65. We're about $20 of the way there. And also I've been looking to review RIPPAZINE number 4. Both of these are Soska Sisters products, so generally, I'm like not hugely enthusiastic about them, but if you want that content, that'll be $95 for both YAIRA number 3 and RIPPAZINE number 4. And we're $20 of the way there, looking to get to $65 minimum for YAIRA number 3. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but there is that 60% off coupon that is supposed to come as a result of my having ordered Zalen, What Kills Must Die. And if that coupon is actually there, then any money that I get towards YAIRA number 3 and RIPPAZINE number 4 that I get the 60% off discount on, I will take the remainder of that money and apply it to whatever is the next thing I'm going to need to be bribed on to read. So I'm just letting you know that discount will apply. So your money will go farther than you think it will if you're doing the donations. Let's see, what is that? Cowboy Bebop says, in my opinion, Rippaverse comics should cost a maximum of $15 for every comic. Well, they do have a $15 comic. And generally speaking, now when they come out with a comic, it's usually between, if it's one of their 48 pagers or 64 pagers, you're generally looking at about $15 for it. And even the one that's like 144 pages, I saw number 3 was. I mean, wasn't that only like 18 or $19 for the mass market version? Or no, I take that back. No, for that one it was about $35, but that was like 144 pages, so that was pretty huge. I think at this point they're kind of affordable. The problem is just there's so freaking many of them. If they come out with these titles month after month after month, and you're paying like $15 a month for like one book, so, to this day, still, I would probably rather go to a comic book shop and I would rather buy 3 different comics a month for that $15. And Low Watermark, swinging in with the $50 donation. Thank you so much. Saying, hey, Mike, hey, Low, or Mark, hey, Lark. We are already atop the goal for YAIRA number 3. So YAIRA number 3, I will be purchasing and reviewing. Need another $20 to get to the secondary goal, where I'm doing both YAIRA number 3 and RIPPAZINE number 4. That's the catch and kill story by the Saska sisters, featuring Winslow Valiant and his femme fatale sidekick, whoever the hell she is. I should probably have read that description a lot more closely. Let's go take a look at that Rippaverse RIPPAZINE number 4, because pre-order now. Let's go to the description. Exclusive short story, Catch and Kill. The streets of Florispark are populated by more than heroes and villains. No shit. The men and women who tell their stories are also there. Catch and Kill is a thriller featuring the debut of investigative reporter Winslow Valiant and photojournalist Betty Brooke, as the unlikely pair works to uncover dark secrets hidden within their fair city. Written by Jen and Sylvia Saska, and brought to life by the incredible work of Sebastian Garcia and colored by Jao Canola. This gritty thriller of a short story will give you a brand new ground-level perspective within one of our most prominent Rippaverse locations. Within one of our most prominent Rippaverse locations? Are you talking about Florispark? Really? Like, what? Why would you call it that? The marketing on this thing. My goodness. Low watermark. You're going over. You were. He says you will not be able to get out of this, Mike. Your pain is our gain. Oh, thank you so much. We have now reached the $95 mark. In fact, we ought to call it the mark in honor of Low Watermark. So we have got, well, wait a minute. Hold on. Have we reached $95? Have we reached $95? Is that where we are? Wait, where are we? Oh, I think we're only at $90. Because we got $20 from, going back here, we got $20 from Alpha and Omega. We got $50 from Low Watermark. We got $20 from Low Watermark again. So we're at $90. I still need $5 more dollars. Come on, somebody other than Low Watermark, pitch in $1, pitch in a couple of dollars. You can go for that $2 super chat. It's like pop your super chat cherry if you're out there and you have never donated before, because this is where you're going to get the critiques on books like YAIRA number 3 and RIPPAZINE number 4. So thank you to Low Watermark. We're looking for $5 to get us the full way to RIPPAZINE number 4. And, I think I have always had a problem with these live streams, and I went ahead and before this live stream, I rebooted my computer, but I've always had a problem with my live streams when they reach the 2-hour mark. So it would not surprise me if in the next 12 minutes or so, we hit a disconnect. So make sure you stay on. I will be back if for some reason there's a disconnect, but I did reboot my computer completely before getting on this time. I'm hoping that I don't have any technical issues, but we will see. So we're $5 away. If I can count, $5 away from the $95 mark, where I will be getting both RIPPAZINE #4 as well as YAIRA #3. YAIRA #3 is locked in, guaranteed. Just need that $5 more for RIPPAZINE #4. So let's see, what else have we got? Do we have anything else on the docket? I actually had a whole bunch of live stream topics that I was going to talk about. One of them, Alpha and Omega actually brought up, and it was talking about getting a Gab account and how, it's like, oh God, do I really need to set up another social media account thing? And, I understand that kind of pain because I've been tempted to get onto Truth Social, because that's really the only other network that I know of aside from, well, I guess there's Blue Sky also, but God, do I really want to go there? I've heard that's kind of a leftist cesspool. And the other one I know is Truth Social, and that seems like it's just going to be an echo chamber as well. I mean, I may as well just sit on Gab among the conspiracy theorists, because here's the thing. Gab, I know, is not going to kick me unless I espouse violence or espouse something pornographic or something. I mean, otherwise you're safe. There's nothing really you can do on Gab to get yourself kicked off unless you are like really soliciting illegal activity or like dumping porn out there. So as long as you don't do any of that, then you're fine. And so I feel like that to me is where everybody should go ahead and sign up and get an account, because it's like it's the lowest common denominator as far as free speech protections go. You'll always be able to speak your mind there, so long as you don't get into illegal stuff. Getter, let's see. I don't know about Get. I don't even hear about them anymore. And part of it too is the fact that there's the networks that people, I guess, talk on. People just prefer certain networks. I mean, I kind of regret getting kicked off of X, just because I don't get to talk to the people who are just exclusively on X now. But I don't see even most of the same people who are on those forums on Gab anywhere, because that. You say, yeah, Retro Red Light says Gab is really good. I don't know if I'd say it's really good. I mean, it's really good as far as its free speech protections is concerned, but I mean, it's kind of a cesspool when it comes to, the types of people who get kicked off of Twitter and have to go there. These are the people who just basically want to say the N word. There's like two groups. There are like people who are like really religious and don't want to get kicked off for their religious views. And then there are the people who are like really racist, who don't want to get kicked off for their racist views, and they just want to shout the N word or other racial slurs freely. And then there's poor people like me in the extreme minority who are just like, well, I got kicked off of X and I have nowhere else to go. I'm like Richard Gere, an officer and a gentleman. I got nowhere else to go. Credence Desire says, can't you make a different ID and just don't tell people it's you? I don't want to do that, though, because number one, I'd probably give the game away at some point, and I don't want to get like blocked on an IP level or something, so that the block gets even more restrictive. Right now, I can at least see things that are going on Twitter, or X. But I don't want to get like blocked altogether if they're even capable of that. Maybe I'm overestimating what it is. And besides, if they don't want me there, they don't want me there. But I just think it's stupid. I don't even see the reason why we have permanent bans. It's like if you ban someone for a year, say, like you are banned for a year, and I would, that alone would have caused me to flip out. But at least then it's like the person who gets back on is going to, if that person values his account, is going to be really damn careful after that. That's the person who's going to say, okay, I'm going to make sure I just keep my conversation as innocuous as I possibly can, because I don't want to get thrown off again. So I would think that the way they should do things, and I've said this before, especially when I first got kicked off, I was trying to think of what would be the right way to do this. Because one of the reasons that I had no idea a permanent ban was coming was the fact that like the earlier suspensions I got would be like for a day, or not even for a day. It would be like just delete your tweet and then you'll be blocked for some unspecified period of time. And it's like I delete the tweet and I'd be right back on. And so I just thought, "Oh, okay. Well, I guess, there's nothing. I don't have any real points against me or anything." Let's see. People are asking, "How did you get kicked off?" I don't generally I don't answer that question because what X did when I appealed was that they gave me a form letter back saying, we don't have to tell you anything and you're never getting your account back. So they would not actually specify, even though according to their policies, they're supposed to say, this is why you got blocked. And here's the policy you violated against. And, that that at least is what you're supposed to receive when you get an appeal. I appealed 3 times and then they just flat out deleted my account. So everything that I'd ever posted out there, that's gone. So, and this was post Elon Musk, by the way. This was post Elon Musk's takeover. I think it was still called Twitter at the time, but he had bought it. And so I had no idea that, that kind of thing was on the way. Have I contacted them directly about the issue? How exactly? Because I thought all of the ways to contact X is like you go on X. In fact, that's one of the things that has me worried is like if something ever says, well, you can contact our customer support on X. It's like, no, I really can't. So yeah, call Elon. He's off duty from the White House now. That's right. Yeah. If I ever meet him in person, if we're ever having if I'm ever there at a meet and greet, yeah, sure, I'll bring that up. Ugh. Honestly, what's really surprising is how much I really haven't missed it over time. I mean, the one thing that I miss is being able to interact in a friendly way with people who are like comic book professionals and stuff. But for the most part, it's not. It's surprisingly a light touch as far as the absence goes. I would probably spend more time than I should on that if I were on Twitter. And I can't say that Twitter makes you a better person necessarily. It's really easy. Just like I saw with Jordan Peterson, I had to unsubscribe from Jordan Peterson at the time because I could not take his negativity on X. It was insane. I mean, I kept seeing his posts and thinking to myself, how do you expect to be encouraging or to have even a conversation with these people you're disagreeing with if you insult them the way that you're doing? It was just wild. So yeah, I mean, and X, it just gives you so much potential to cut loose with the stuff that you probably shouldn't be saying in the first place. Even especially if you're out there using your real name like I was. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, one of these days, I assume that I'll get I may build a company at some point, and then I'll build an ID for the company, and then if I post anything, it'll be under the company ID, and it'll just be company business. But beyond that, X, I don't really need it. So let's see. What else have we got as far as those? But as far as Gab goes, I would really recommend that everybody get themselves a Gab account. I would recommend that everybody get themselves a Rumble account and a BitChute account because I'm on all 3 of those. Yeah, I'm on all 3 of those. And if I were ever to get kicked off of YouTube, then that would be the only way that anybody would be able to get a hold of me is through one of those channels. So either Gab, Rumble, or BitChute. You'd be able to get a hold of me that way and continue to see my content. So I would make sure that if you haven't got a Rumble, a BitChute account already, get at least one of those, and then get a Gab account, and that way you can see notifications of things that I post out there because that's where I make my usual social media posting, and I also do things in the YouTube community section, but those are all of course, public posts. In order to connect with me on Gab through the chat, you do have to follow me there, and I have to follow you back. So once that connection is made, then I can um, then we'll be able to chat online. Uh, one one thing I got a request from one user who hooked up with me on Gab, and he was saying, can you lend me your scans so I can read the books that you've got? And I'm like, no, I don't do that. In fact, I buy a second copy of the Rippaverse materials when I need to, just to have the scans to cannibalize. So that I don't do any sharing or any kind of free distribution of those things. I definitely don't upload to any bootleg sites or anything like that. Those scans are for my use only, and the only way you would get hold of any of them yourself is if you were like doing screenshots of what I put into my PowerPoint presentation. So that's as far as that goes. So don't bother trying to get me to start a book club or anything like that. Let's see what else is out there. Saints and Sinners. Who wants to talk about Saints and Sinners? So this is the trade paperback collection that's going to have 4 or 5 different stories from various YouTubers around there. Let me go ahead and pull up that page, and we'll talk about that for a little bit, because this to me is actually a pretty good idea. I think the idea of, oh dear God, does that mean Larry Shungite's going to be in there? Oh my goodness. So we've got the Saints and Sinners anthology welcomes fans to a 100-plus page collection of short stories featuring the tales of a variety of fan favorite and new characters. Written by Heels versus Babyface, Jay David, Eric July, Callum Edmonds, aka Mahler, the Soska sisters, and Will Jordan, aka the Critical Drinker. That's 6 different stories. That's a good deal. I think that is something that I'm not going to need to be bribed for that one. I'm still looking for $5 for the RIPPAZINE number 4, but as far as the Saints and Sinners collection, I'll go ahead and pick that one up. Let's see, what is that? Retro Red Light said you could get into legal problems if Eric found out you were giving out his books, which is why I do not do that. Yes, yeah, I do not distribute any of that information. Yeah, and the reason I buy the copy is to also get the scans from that. So I don't want to get any bootleg. I don't use bootleg scans either. Let's see, Odyssey video site is also good. I tried the Odyssey video site, but that did not work for me because it uses some sort of blockchain technology, if I'm not mistaken. So it was using kind of a token-based system, and I could not get that to work. I tried it, but I just gave up on it after a while. The other video site that I tried and gave up on was Dailymotion. Dailymotion just sucked. I mean, it was, the interface for it was so terrible that I tried to upload a large video at one point, and then after I tried uploading the video and spent like a half hour uploading it, it told me there was a maximum limit on the size. It's like, you piece of crap, why could you have not told me that there was a size limit before I spent all this time uploading the file? That does not make any sense. Creed's Desire says the way the numbers are going, it doesn't look like all the YouTubers are promoting it properly. That is true. Right now, let me do a control refresh to look at what it actually looks like. The current number is $240,000. And you would think that with all of the people who are watching these shows, that they could convert more of their sales. Because just look at, what is it, Heels versus Babyface. Let's go ahead and total this up. Heels versus Babyface. How much does he have? Heels versus Babyface has 381,000 subscribers. So we'll tally that up. 381. And so this is in thousands. So let's go with, who's next? Jay David. He's Drunk 3PO, right? Drunk 3PO. Drunk 3PO has 101,000 subscribers. So if we add that in, we've got 482,000. And then, okay, Eric July Eric July, Eric July, Eric July. Let's go ahead and do the math on him. Ooh, come on. Eric July. Eric July has 493,000. So if we do the math on that, that brings our total up to 975,000 accounts just from those three people alone. Mahler, he has 492,000 plus 492. Critical Drinker, who's Critical Drinker? Critical Drinker has 2.3 million. 2.3 million subscribers. So plus 2,300 equals. Okay. So there are oh my God, this reminds me of like ISOM #1 numbers. There are 3.76 million subscribers among all of those. And if you can just convert 7%, 0.07, that would be 263,000 buyers. If all of these people across all of their channels were promoting this book, they should have sold like hundreds of thousands of copies here. Am I reading this wrong? I mean, that just strikes me as crazy. This can't be right. 3.77 is 263,000 people should have been buying this book. How oh my God. And just think what kind of money that would have drawn in. The cheapest version of this comic is how much? $26? So let's just take that $26 times 263. This should be a $6.8 million book. What in the hell? What? Why? Oh God! I mean, it's like have these people all tried and failed to put out their own product before? Is that what's going on? Why in the world? You can't even get the Rippaverse fans on board with this. You know, how is it you only have a $260,000 haul and you haven't? What is the point? God. Let's see. Retro Red Light. Louis Rossman, the YouTuber, made Gray J video player. He made it so if you get banned, people can still find you. Okay, that's interesting to know. Yeah, Creedence Desire is like horrified. They should have hit 1 million with Drinker alone. Oh my God. Like what? Why would they not do this for him? Is there no loyalty among these folks? It's just, I can't imagine. I mean, did Critical Drinker like destroy his own reputation with the movies he put out? Is that why he can't get anybody to buy the comic? Damn. That's just damn. Okay. Well, you know, I've always thought it was a good idea to like start doing this in kind of an anthology series, because the nice thing about an anthology series is that you're almost inevitably going to get people like one after. You remember how Action Comics Weekly used to do it, where Action Comics Weekly would have a main Superman story, and then there'd be several other stories, and those stories would not all end at the same time. And that was important because you would always wind up like buying a few issues beyond the end of a particular short story in there. And then you would get more people coming, you would get more new stories coming on, and then people would find one of those to follow, and then you would keep going based on that. So you could wind up with people who are just like, oh, I really like this story. Okay, that story ended, but I've started reading this one, and now I'm going forward and liking this story, and I'm just going to keep buying it until that story's over, and then so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. Let's see. Are all those followers just bots, or what happened? Yeah, maybe it was his movie. I don't know. Dear heaven, that's crazy. So Saints and Sinners, yeah, I'm going to pick that up. I think the anthology format is smart. I had Zaylen mentioned here just because, you know, why would you call your newest screw up a collectible? That was the one thing I found insulting. I mean, I didn't find it insulting that he admitted to his mistake. I mean, yeah, great. He admitted to his mistake and said, "We're gonna we're gonna fix this somehow, in whatever way they decide to fix it." I haven't looked into that because I don't care. I'm not gonna ask for a fixed copy or anything like that. I just want the copy that's supposed to be coming to me. Um, but just the fact that he would put that is like, "You got a collectible," like, what a dick thing to say. No, I got a screwed up comic. That's what happened. I got a screwed up comic I didn't want a screwed up comic. And it's not like it's tragically screwed up. I've actually read Zalen, and the error that's in there is not like devastating by any means. Um, it's just a little bit of misalignment and how the pages are supposed to be split up in the double page spread. And I don't even know if it's just that double page spread or even if it's all of the double pages spreads in the book. I didn't look to see whether that was the case, but it's like whatever, that's fine. I just want my copies so I can cannibalize them for scans, and when I put my own scans together, I can fix the errors myself. But and unfortunately, my review on Zalen is going to be delayed until I get the second copy. So that's kind of irritating me too. But we'll figure that stuff out on Monday, when I'm sure the Rippaverse customer service will be in house and able to look at everything that's going on there, find out why they didn't ship. I'm pretty aware of why they didn't ship my order. I don't know if I showed this, but if you look at my order details, you'll see that the two covers of ISOM number 3 that I got appear on 2 different lines. So I did get those 2 copies, but the Zalen appears on just 1 line, and I have a feeling that somebody just overlooked the fact that it's times 2, so it's a $40 price, and that's why I only got the 1 copy of where am I holding this? The 1 copy of Zalen. So yeah, we got to get that resolved, and I'm sure it'll get resolved to my satisfaction. I'm not worried about that. Let's see. That was part of the confusion when I was actually talking with Carol Brown about, can I get a copy of Zalen here so you don't have to ship me one. That was actually one of the confusions there, is like, oh no, well, if you're returning one of the books, it's like, no, I'm not returning. I just didn't get the second one that I ordered. So we'll get that figured out. I had something to say about the Bloodruth double page spread. I don't know what that was. I think it was just the fact that, no matter what happens, it just looks bad for the company. There are so many people who are arguing about, well, obviously Eric's lying, or, well, who knows? Maybe he did make a conscious decision to do it that way. I mean, the thing I want to know is, let's just take it as is and say we believe him. We believe that he made a creative decision. Did he really not run that past anybody else? Did he really just slide that past everyone? I mean, I'm glad I didn't even raise that question at the Rippaverse table, because I'm sure if I had remembered to, that probably would not have gone well. But I mean, things went well enough as far as I'm concerned. Everything was. I told you like 2 hours without fail, I was going to have a problem. So I glitched up and I was like, okay, how do I reconnect this thing? I hope all of my stuff is still saved here. Okay, so Retro Red Light asks, how do you cut the Rippaverse book so you have one of those tables with a blade on it? No, no, I just basically like take one and like try to carefully rip it apart. It would probably be easier if I did have an X-Acto knife and used it that way, because it is kind of a pain in the ass trying to get all that stuff just ripped apart in such a way. And sometimes I wind up ripping the pages beyond what I'm intending to, and so you'll see sometimes in the artwork I've had things shaved off. Is everybody able to see me again? Can somebody shout out in the chat just that I'm back and live? Anybody? Marco Polo kind of stuff. Anybody still there? Yeah, there we go. Live. All right, good. In fact, I had this back on. There we go. Live shout out. Live. Okay. All right. As long as I've still got people. Yeah. It turns out I ran out of memory. I didn't realize this thing like chews up memory to the point where after 2 hours, it's just all my memory is gone. which is sad because I've got like 16 gig of RAM on this thing. Like, what am I going to have to get for like a real laptop at this point? Because I bought this as a really cheap option. I needed to get off of Windows 10 and onto Windows 11 because, the Windows 10 goes out of service in October, and I still need to get myself a desktop computer. And I wanted to get something that was from a brand name, but that was relatively cheap. And so this laptop only cost me like $500, I think, all total. And I mean, it's been serving me perfectly good, but I can't believe that I have 16 gig of RAM, and that can only get me like 2 hours of live stream time. That's just weird. I feel like I'm going to have to go and buy another Alienware computer or something again, which I'd really rather not do. HP so far is serving me pretty well. So if I can get a good deal on something that's like high end HP, then maybe I'll go with that. for my next laptop. I don't know. I might stick with this laptop a while because if in case anyone's noticed, I am cheap. And I do not like change when I have to go through this stuff. But honestly, there's times when I'm either trying to do CapCut on a video. I'm wondering how CapCut's going to react when I try editing this live stream down and trying to do stuff with it. Because I'll probably clip a few things out of here and like the Rippaverse, my Rippaverse visit. I bought, Retro Red Light says, I bought a $2,500 MacBook Pro and it broke. Macs are made like crap. M chips might be better. Yeah, that's the thing is, Apple, I would like to try, but it's too expensive to try. There is no way in the world I would want to buy an Apple computer and then find out I don't like it. I would much rather buy a $500 laptop and realize that I didn't get something powerful enough, which I don't think I did. Because the main thing is, if you're going to be doing any kind of video work whatsoever, whether it's editing videos, whether it's live streaming, doing stuff on online, whatnot, you really should get a laptop that has its own video card. I have integrated graphics on this, so it does not have its own separate graphics card, and that was a mistake in the sense of it does not have the kind of processing power I really need it to have. Let's see. Warzard, the Board Time Lord. Mike Partika, did you shop for any comics while you were at the con? No, because there's only one comic thing I'm looking for, and it's going to run me probably $1,000 to get it. So unless I like make a really, really big stock win or something, if I like make money on stock options to the point where I just have $1,000 to casually throw around, I will look for a copy of Adam Legend of the Blue Marvel trade paperback, which I should have bought years ago for $10. But for some reason, Marvel's decided they're never going to reprint it. I don't know why. And so that thing is like a freaking $1,000 now. I'm just so irritated by that because they give digital copies away for it for free. Of course, there's no reproduction costs there, and I don't think they have to pay any royalties to the creators for that. But Adam Legend of the Blue Marvel by Kevin Grievous and Matt Broom, I would love to have a copy of that. And I'm, right now I'm just hoping to find it at some poor bastard's estate sale or something where they don't know what they have. Where the people are just like, yeah, these are all just a bunch of old ratty comics that I'll just mark a $5 sticker on it and sell it to the first bozo who comes along. It's like, I'm your Huckleberry. God. I had the chance to buy that book for $10. I remember the discount sticker that was on the cover. It was like bargain buy, $10 for Adam Legend of the Blue Marvel. And like a freaking idiot, I looked through it and I was just kind of like, yeah, I don't know if I really need this or not. And besides, Blue Marvel was not a well-used character by that point. It wasn't until they incorporated him into the Ultimates that he really came to prominence. And so I didn't think I needed that volume in my collection. And I should never have forsaken my primary rule of buy now, regret it later. You know, even if you think you have a good chance of selling it later on, just go ahead and buy it now. And you know, because you never know if you're going to get a gem or not. And it's not like the greatest series, it's not like the greatest comic in the world, but it is the only instance of that character's origin out there, and I don't have it. So I want Marvel to either produce a second printing of that book, and if I ever run into a Marvel editor or something, I will definitely go to that person and say, "Where's the reprint?" Um, but yeah, that's the only thing I'm looking for. I would not get pretty much anything else. You know, I feel bad for people who get like Action Comics #1 and then find out it's part one of a two-part story. Oh God, can you imagine? I finally have a copy of the first appearance of Superman. Let me read the story. It's like, jeez. And then you find out the story doesn't end until issue #2. Oh my God. Let's see. Retro Red Light says iPhone 7 I bought in 2018 lasted until Christmas of 2024. I think it's just a bad battery. Walmart has cheap iPhones. iPhone 11 Plus at Walmart, $200. iPhones are the only Apple products I like. Yeah, I've just never gotten into Apple products. I know people who have, and I know that they like them, but to me, it's just way too expensive. I would rather get something that's you know that's cheap enough where if I feel like I made a mistake buying it, then I'm not out that much money. So that's pretty much what I'm looking for there. What else? So the Blood Ruth double page spread. Yeah, God. I mean, can you just see? Here's the thing, and somebody, if they ever had a panel where like Eric and the Saskas were talking on that, and somebody were to bring that up, I would say something to the effect of, okay, I'm willing to accept that everything you say is true and that this was a creative decision and it just didn't turn out the way that you wanted. But the way that the process works, if I understand it correctly, is that when you send your files to the printer, they then send you a physical proof copy for you to review. And you review the proof copy and you make sure that the book looks the way that you wanted it to. So if what you're telling us is that this creative decision of yours did not hit the way that you thought it would, wasn't the reception of the proof copy the point at which you should have understood that was the case? Because then you would have been able to say, okay, hold off on the printing. We're going to fix this thing that I thought was a good creative decision. And then I want you to send me another proof copy with this corrected so that we can get this all, squared away. And apparently they did not do that. And now with the Zalen problem, same thing. They had they actually said that they caught this error in Zalen when it was in the pre-processing or whatever stage that is. And so they got a proof copy. They looked at it and they said, oh, this is messed up. And they sent it back to them. And then either they didn't get a second proof copy, which is just ridiculous, or they got the proof copy back and they didn't check it for the one thing they knew needed to be fixed. I mean, this is what's ridiculous about the process over there. This is why they have these quality control problems. Retro Red Light says, one Android tip, make Brave your default browser. My Android phone got malware with Chrome. Ooh, ouch. I don't know if I think I do use Chrome on mine. Well, hopefully I don't have malware on it. So yeah, that was about the, what do you call it? What else was on there? Let's see. Do I even want to go into these? I don't know if I want to go into these remaining live stream topics that I had written up. Blah, 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 blah. Maybe I'll do that on another live stream. I'll just leave those for later. And maybe some of those I'll save for when I'm on BTM reviews. Who knows? Let's see. Anything else? I think we're good to go for now. Okay, so last chance. If anyone wants to donate $5, that'll get us the rest of the way towards RIPPAZINE #4. $5 for RIPPAZINE #4. and we can lock that in. Otherwise, I will continue begging for the duration of the, at least through the end of the YAIRA #3 campaign, because I think what I would like to do, I'm trying to think of if they're going to. Well, of course, I'm going to wait until the absolute end of the YAIRA #3 campaign, because God only knows if they're going to release something else. You know, they could release something else, and then I could get all of that shipped at once. The other thing I know I'm going to need is another copy of the Rippaverse Trinity volume. I'm going to get another softcover volume of that because I need to cannibalize that for scans. I did not realize when I got the Rippaverse Trinity volume that I've got right now, I really need to have a second copy that I can cannibalize. But what's really nice is that, I'm hoping that 60% off coupon applies to that, because they said it applies to everything other than statues. So I will most likely make that purchase. And who knows? I mean, kind of embarrassed to wear Rippaverse stuff at this point. I mean, I know it doesn't look it now. Because I'm wearing nothing but Rippaverse stuff. But I mean, just going out in public with this stuff, I almost don't want to be a walking. Thank you. It's me. Okay, shut up. Said, well, that sounds like the proper name to reply to my bribe streams with. Has the $5 to take me the rest of the way. We have hit our $95 stretch goal. I will be getting and reviewing both YAIRA #3 and RIPPAZINE #4. So thank you all so much, everyone who donated. Let's see what we got. Retro Red Light says, it's me. Okay, shut up. Says it's works for the Trinity. Good, because I definitely am going to need it for 60% off for that $70 mother fricker. Retro Red Light, these free Android apps that use ads installed malware, and every 3 minutes my phone was playing an ad. Yeah, oh goodness. Yeah, I don't use any Android apps that use ads, I think. I generally try and keep my phone as clean as possible. I will occasionally get into rewards programs and stuff. I think the one reward program that I probably need to get on my phone that I have not gotten on my phone as yet is Taco Bell rewards, because I do have a tendency to just drive through with cravings. So it would probably suit me well to get myself a Taco Bell rewards program thing going on my phone. Other than that, I think I only have a few different food app programs that I use for rewards. I don't have any games installed other than what may have been pre-installed on there, and I don't play any games that are on my Android phone. I do have one free phone that was given to me by AT&T when they had their network upgrade, and they sent me a 4G phone because my previous phone was 3G. I'd kept it a long time. And that phone, I put Candy Crush Saga on, so I do stuff on that for Candy Crush Saga. Retro Red Light said, I bought it is really good coupons when you shop. I've heard of that. That's the one where you scan what you've your receipts and stuff, and then it'll give you some money back. But even then, I mean, that's one of those things where I don't like just the idea of downloading another app. I don't even like these QR code things that they make you do these days. I mean, I've gotten used to using some over at like there's a sushi restaurant in town where it'll show you the QR code for you to pay your bill, and so I'll do that. But other than that, I just pretty much stay away from it. That's why I was kind of a little bit upset about the way they do badges over at the Fan Expo, because now they got the QR codes that you got to click on and then fill out the form and all that. I'm thinking, great, what are they putting on my phone now? Retro Red Light talking about the Ibotta app. I'm getting $20 back. I bought milk and got $1 back. Dang, that's a lot of stuff. What about this other? Anything else? Do I want to save those live stream topics for just random stuff? I think I will. Okay. All right. So we hit our goal. Thank you all so much. $95 gets us RIPPAZINE #4 and YAIRA #3. So I've got two more. I've got two more Suska Sister things I gotta read. Why do you do this to me? So Thank you all so much. And I think I'm going to go ahead and head out, get myself a little bit more dinner, and because I had some Salisbury steak patties. They had a coupon at Kroger's for this family pack of 6, so I went ahead and I ate 3, and I got 3 more saved up for later. Yeah, Cretan's Desire is celebrating, and I hope you all enjoyed the stories that I had to tell about Fan Expo Dallas and my encounter with Rippaverse there. I will try and clip out some of these stories that I've told, or at least maybe the Rippaverse one, and see if I can get that into a coherent video that can be shared around. So anyway, thank you to everyone who hung on and got us across the finish line. And I will talk to you later. You have a good rest of the weekend evening. I'm Mike Partika, and I am out.